Hello and welcome to episode 7 of the Youth Intake Challenge as we're making our way through the third season in charge of Dulwich Hamlet. See how we're getting on. We'll have a little bit of an update on the best of the Youth Intake so far, a little bit of a preview into the next Youth Intake and just a summary of how we're getting on. So stay tuned and we'll catch you up on where we've been going. And here we go, a bit of a whistle-stop catch-up on where we are. What we've got on the screen now is a bit of a history of where we've been since we took over. So this is the third season. We've had two 11th finishes. It's the first time I've seen, actually. It was exactly the same place both times. Hoping for third time lucky, maybe making the playoffs. So we'll get into where we are in the league, which if we go to currently 10th. We've got a game in hand on a couple of the teams above us, but we're on 35 points. Not doing too bad. As you can see, we've got the top goal scorer in the league, Oscar Allen. Again, we'll touch on him in a minute. He's having a fantastic season. He's had most player of the matches as well. But in terms of trying to get into that playoff spot, I think it's doable. I've said this the last couple of seasons. We seem to do well up until a point, and then we fade off towards the end of the season, really. But I think this time we've just had a run of difficult games. I think we're coming to an area of winnable games, and hopefully by the end of this season we'll be able to push for some sort of playoff. And if we are in the playoffs come the end of the season, when we do the end of season review video, we'll just show them matches and you can see whether we're successful or not. In terms of the squad then, thinned it down a little bit. We've just been putting players slowly and surely. As they've not played too many games, we would just push them back into the under 18 team to give them a bit more first team appearances down there, or send them out on loan. So first ones to go through in terms of the first team players, and the first thing to note really is Oscar Allen is now our best player. He's at 4.5 star current ability. He's wanted by other clubs. He won't sign a new contract, unfortunately, so it's going to be difficult negotiating that. I'm hoping if we can get up a division we might be able to tempt him into another contract, but we'll see. In terms of his stats, he's been doing really well. He's a deep line forward with his stats in the right places. He's got a lot of development. His stats have come on massively since he first started. If we look at his development progress, again you can see he's still going up even as we speak, and from going a 2-star when he first turned up to being 4.5 stars now, it's some turnaround. And his all-time stat boost, again you can see there, a huge number of stats have gone up. Off the ball's gone up the most by 4, alongside composure and balance. He's had a few at 3, so decisions, anticipation, vision, strength. The only thing I would say is he's not particularly good in the pacier side. He has gone up twice to get to pace 11, but his acceleration's only 8, so he's not really that quick off the mark. So I think over the seasons we will find better players than him, hopefully come through the system. But certainly he's been the cream of the crop so far. And when we go into his, I didn't mean to click off him, but if we go into his stats, 21 appearances, 13 goals and 5 assists. That's brilliant. He's outscoring his XG of 10.82, only slightly, but again, he's going a long way. He's got a fight for the top scorer chart if we can keep him banging in the goals, but we will see if he can maintain that. Other players to look at, Dean Spence. He's had a bit of a meteoric rise as well. I think he's massively benefited from Gilder being out with his broken leg, but he's made himself the first choice out there on the left. Again, he's had a lot of stat increases in the right places, and he's gone up to 4 stars, so he's like our second best player at the club now, despite him being here at a slightly shorter time than Oscar Allen. In terms of his development then, his progress, a good steep curve. So I think he was fairly slow when he first got here, but as he's played more and more games when Gilder's gone out, he's slowly climbed up and he's hit that kind of 4 star, but he's got potential to go up to 5. In terms of his attributes all time, not so many changes there really. I mean, oh no, there we go, it hadn't clicked over, so that's a lot better. The only one he's picked up 4 on is balance. He's slightly better on acceleration. The only other ones he's picked 3s up on is composure, decisions. So he's not had the stat boost that maybe Oscar Allen's had. It's been a bit more measured, a bit slower, but again he's still got a little bit to go, so we might be able to keep him for a number of years. We have got him 2029, so we've got another 3 years out of him. Barbadian. He's got 2 caps and a goal as well, which is good. We've got an international player in there, so again, really, really good. Next one to look at, Lolo Atienza, who we've seen in previous episodes as well. He's managed to get up to 3.5 star ability, the centre half. And I think really we need some centre halves coming through the youth system because we've not got particularly many. Ekpiteta's not going to be with us forever. But again, no nonsense centre back, 3.5 star potential. He's playing a really good average rating, and he's fairly solid at the back, 183 centimetres. In terms of his development, his progress, a little bit up and down, so to speak. It's because he was in and out the team for a lot, but his attribute-wise, all time, you can see his concentration's gone up by 4, marking's gone up by 4 as well, which are 2 of the main ones you want as a centre half. His tackling's not particularly gone up yet, but he's still fairly young. His positioning and leadership, his anticipation, and then his strength as well, which is really useful at the centre half position. So again, he's another one that's really made himself a first teamer, our best centre half at the club now. We just need to find some players to play alongside him as we move on. Outside of that, we've got Jake Gilder. I don't want to touch on him too much because obviously he's had his big leg break since the previous updates, and he's not played particularly many games. So we'll stay off him until he comes back, and we'll see how he develops from there. The other players that have come through and getting a bit more game time is Steve Tracy. He's our deputy striker. He sometimes plays a little bit of midfield when we're really stuck for players as well. But again, he's got a high potential threshold, but he's not really had the game time yet to get on as well as some of the other players. You see, they're fairly levelled out, and I think if we go into his changes since all time, there's not really been anything drastic for him. But I think he's got a lot of potential ahead of him. Inuesa Udrago. He's starting to play a lot more games for us in the middle of the park. Again, not as many as he maybe would because we don't play an attacking midfielder. We play more in that central role. But again, he's been developing quite well. Progress-wise, again, not as meteoric as some of the others, probably because his lack of first-team football. But he's still managing to get some development, and we need him to kind of pick up a little bit more and get him a bit more exposure. Trying to think if there's any other ones that really in there that have come on leaps and bounds. I mean, Amoako is probably not where we would have wanted him to have been, considering the amount of games he's played. He's played a similar amount of games. In fact, he's played more than Oscar Allen. He'd played as many as Gilder had before he broke his leg. However, his development progress hasn't been as good. So a bit stagnant at the start. He has built up, but he's slowly on his way back down again, which isn't particularly promising. And his stat-wise, all time, he has had decisions go up by 4, but he's not as many attributes, especially in the technical side, as some of the other players. And as you can see within his technical side, he's got a lot of 2s and a couple of 1s in there. So he's not coming as much as we want. And I think the worry for him is we do have other players in there with a lot of potential that might start to outstrip him, like Jowdan Babu. He plays in the same position. He puts in good performances when he's on there. And with him getting 4 games in now, I think Amoako's got to start looking over his shoulder. That's it player-wise. I don't think there's really any more that we need to touch on. I don't think any others are really getting as much first-team football. But there has been a number of appearances. I think if you sort it by appearances, you take the yellow dots. That's it. We touched on Allen, Spence, Amoako. John Schaff, he's played 20 games for us. It might be worth just having a quick peek at him. Probably the most games of the midfielders we've got, and again we could really use a centre mid of some sort coming through the youth system. His progress starting to go up the more he plays games. I don't think his attributes have particularly changed that much. We've got a couple in there, so a bit of leadership, decisions, composure and anticipation, a bit of jumping reach, but nothing really to shout home about. But I've got a lot of expectation on Schaff. I think long term he's going to be one of our centre midfielders because we don't have many coming through the youth system that play there. Other stuff to maybe talk about in terms of club info is the affiliates. I did go into Madison, the United States affiliate, and just altered the agreement to enable us to possibly benefit from some of their youth players coming through our young youth ranks. So we might see some Germans and Americans coming through the youth system in the future, which is brilliant. We've obviously seen previously in the previous episodes about the improvements to the recruiting and the youth coaching. So again, that's good. I have been hassling them multiple times about trying to get some more facilities for us, but unfortunately I can't find where you find that part out. Is it in here? So there we go. So done some coaching courses, which is good, but every time I go for improved training facilities, it gets rejected. We have got a negotiation of an existing affiliation, but we really need to start getting some improved training facilities, because in terms of the club facilities, above average youth recruitment, which is good, adequate academy coaching, we could do with bumping that up again. They're not really going for the training, which is below average, but we really need to get the youth facilities and the training facilities bumped up a little bit to improve the progress of some of our youngsters as they come through. So that's where we are. We have had the youth intake preview come through, which again, it says is an excellent intake. We've only really got one A star player, which is a midfielder, so it looks like we've got a top prospect in the middle of the park, which is brilliant. That's what we need. Not really needing another goalkeeper at this time. It looks like 3 centre-backs coming through, which we need as backup for Atienza. The only disappointing part really for me is there's not many full-backs coming through, and when we go back to the squad, if we look at the full-back area, we've not really got anything particularly strong in there. I think Fontas is our best one coming through, and he's only got a potential of 1 gusting 2 stars, so right back is going to be a bit of a struggle when Scarlett goes. And then at left back, we've got James Cockings coming through. We need to get him a bit more game time when Bin and Williams sails away. But outside of that, we've really not got anything to write home about in them positions. Dipping into the other under 18 players, we have got Nchama out on loan. He's got a 5-star potential. Might be another one of them centre midfielder roles to fill in the future. Craig Howard might be a future right back. He is a right midfielder, right back. If we can get him trained in that position. We've got Steve Spencer as another striker, which might, if Oscar Allen goes, he might have to come in. And then a lot of wingers in amongst all that. And then England Fredericks, I think high profile or high potential goalkeeper. We've got him and Ergi Muka, 2 quite high profile goalkeepers. So I think we're all right in that position for a while. So that's an update of where we are really. That's an update on the intake and the players. And realistically, schedule wise, we just have to get through a bulk of it, and I'll come back when the youth intake comes in. We'll have a real snapshot then of where we are in the league, whether we can just creep into them playoffs. I mean, the first thing to note really is that of our goal scorers, it's pretty much just Oscar Allen every single time. So hopefully that's good catch up for you all with this episode, and I'll see you again at the youth intake, where we'll go through the players one by one and see if we can finally get the players in the positions we want. So all going good, everything's well. Don't forget to stick a thumbs up on the video if you're enjoying what you're seeing. If there's anything in particular you want to see, stick it in the comments and I'll make sure it's included in the next episode. And until next time, take care, have fun, and I'll see you soon.